My name is Karen Stingle, and I am originally kind of from back east. I think of Washington, D.C. as my hometown, but I was a Foreign Service brat, so I lived overseas, got to experience various cultures, and that's one of the things I love about the fair, is it feels like another culture that's more related to some of those cultures than our main cities and such. My first fair was in 1975, and I had moved to Oregon the winter before that, and everybody was coming to the fair, so I came to the fair. I was living at that point in Deadwood, in the Coast Range, and we have just come together as a community there, so many of us from Deadwood came to the fair, and that included Jessie, who was with another woman at that time. And Jesse had started doing orange juice at Saturday Market, and he had done the fair for a few years at that point. I think he said 71 was his first year. And so I naturally just gravitated here when I came and had some orange juice. And I think I might have even juiced a little bit that first year. I know I did it and then I think the second year I juiced more officially, and it was either the second or third year that I actually became part of the crew here. But that first year it was just like, wow, this magic place out in the woods, and it was much more sparse than, of course. Community Village was just a few card tables in the middle of what's now Community Village. And I met people like Marshall Landman, and I can't think of the name of the other guy who we also have lost, who was into wild edibles. And so they had one thing they had there was a bunch of wild edible plants, and that's one of my passions. So I ended up spending a bunch of time talking with them, and then, as I said, spent some time at this booth and had other Deadwood friends who were there then and are still involved. My friend Chanan the jeweler. So yeah, I just felt like this was a cool scene, and it was here at that point. So I know it started off being somewhere else, but by then it was here, but we didn't own the land yet. So I felt from the first that this was a place I belonged. And so not only did I juice oranges, but I got a little involved in Community Village, or at least made sure to stay in touch with them at first. And then I also started singing with a bunch of people in Eugene. Ended up having a women's quartet called Sweetgrass. So we sang here several years, and that was really awesome. We sang at Shady Grove. We sang one time at Main Stage, but it was kind of distracting because we were a filler in between while they were setting up for the next group. But it still was like, we're on Main Stage. Then I've also, over the years, gotten involved with the recycling crew to some extent. There was a time where I was going to join the recycling crew because my landlord is Robert Painter, who was one of the people who started it, and he was my good friend even before he became my landlord. And I'm an obsessive compulsive recycler. And so when I got together with Wally Jones in 1986, we're sitting in the hot tub at 4th Street, which is a place that Robert put together, and talking about what we wanted to do for the fair, and we agreed that we both wanted to be on the recycling crew. And so we were going to do that, and he went and started making the connections, and it was all, moving forward. And then there was one night where we started talking about it again, and I suddenly got this lump in my throat, tears in my eyes, and like, I can't leave the orange juice booth. I'd gotten so rooted here, and I love the people, and I love the work. It's just really fun work to do, just squeezing those oranges. And we sing fresh squeezed organic orange juice, and we get where we have people who sing harmonies and stuff. It's really fun, and I love the spot. It's so close to Main Stage, and so I just felt like I love recycling, but I don't know. I don't think I can switch over. This is too much my home. So Wally actually ended up camping with me until we broke up 12 years later. And but I've always been, before there were waste warriors, I was a waste warrior. And I'd go and look in the recycling and go, that belongs there and that belongs there. And I love picking up trash, like Sunday morning after the Saturday at midnight show. And then now it's become my routine on Monday to go around with my little trash picker-upper and pick up all the different categories. And then when we had an official waste warrior crew, I was one of those, so I've got my t-shirts, wear them proudly. And our main function at that point was to stand out there, especially on Monday morning, and when people try to sneak up with their rugs or their big bag full of junk that all mixed together, say, excuse me, we need you to sort that. And but they still managed to get by us. We couldn't have eyes everywhere. But that's been a very fulfilling part of my relation to the fair too. And I'm still very interested in plants. Went from wild edibles to, I still focus on that. I eat them all the time. But I'm also really obsessed now with invasives. And so one of the things I'm proudest of this year is that I came out for the Elders Gathering and was just walking around the site, and over where they were working on that totem pole, I started finding shining geranium, and I'm going, oh my God, this stuff is terrible. It's taking over Mount Pisgah. It shoots its seeds, so it moves really fast. And so I pulled everything I could find in that area and these logs around that space. And then I started walking back to Alice's where we were camping, and right around the corner from there, here was this whole field of it going down the hillside. And I was about to take off for a trip, and I'm like, I can't do this. I don't have the time right now, and I won't be here. So I put it out on the email list and told people, please tell anyone you think is appropriate. And so the Vegemanics got on it, and they came and they dealt with it, although I just went over there, and they've been using that now as a place to dump debris, vegetation debris. And so I hope that I need to climb around behind it and see if some of them got away, because even if nobody's walking by them, they're going to shoot their seeds. So I guess those are my main things that I've been involved with here at the fair, and that have really moved me. I think the fair is important on so many levels. We're creating the kind of world we'd like to live in, and how we really think we should relate to each other. And I think it's so important that there's all these mediation trainings going on and that kind of thing, and that we're being conscientious about how we treat the land and about how we use our resources. And then I like that it's become a force out in the world. We make enough money at the fair that we can give donations to community groups that we think are doing good work, and I think that's really neat. And the kind of entertainment that happens here is not what you'd find everywhere. So it's pretty special. The vaudeville, to have a place where that's staying alive is so cool. And the one part I'm having a hard time with is I love the after hours jamming that happens, but it's getting harder and harder because there's a lot of weird loud stuff that happens at night now that we're actually trying as a community to get a handle on that right now. I went to a meeting about that, and I have faith in our community that we'll figure out some way to make everybody at least fairly happy. It's not perfect, because I don't want to hear disco music right out there when I'm just falling asleep on Thursday night. But the people who really want to do that, if they can have a place where they can do it where it doesn't impact the rest of the community, I'm fine with that. So it's that kind of thing we're still continually working out. And I like that we're like a cauldron for finding those kinds of solutions. We don't, we have to respond to what is. We don't run it all. You know, part of me would love to go back to the days when it was all acoustic except for main stage and a couple other little spots. And I don't like techno music, and I think there are other places to hear it. But I know there are a lot of young people who want to hear that, and so if we can figure out a way to make space for them and have it be okay. Silent raves are a great idea with the earphones. But yeah, there is a generational shift, and I turned 70 last year. I know that my body is starting to feel it, but I'm not ready to give up my roots here in the orange juice booth, and so I really hope I can keep doing that. But I understand that we need to be passing this on to the younger generation too, and it's happening, and we have some amazing younger people who are stepping up, so I really appreciate that. I really love the fair, and I hope it continues to be what it is and grow and evolve with the times. I just really hope we don't lose the essence of what we started off to be. This gentle gathering out in the woods where people could share on a one-to-one level or get together and do quiet jams at night and do harmonies with each other. And so I really want to work out the balance between those. I'm a little concerned about the growth. I know we have to, in a way, and yet I think there's a thing of scale where it gets to a certain point where there isn't enough of a personal connection to like I went out to the new place and I'm like, well, this is really interesting, but I don't know if I'll get out here again because it's so far from where I am and where my home is. And can we, I don't know, somehow figure out a way to slow down this growth in a good way. I don't want to make it where it's a real exclusive situation. I want people to all feel welcome here. But I also think we should just be a model for people starting festivals like this everywhere, where not everybody has to come to the Oregon Country Fair every year unless they're part of the family, and they'll know if they are. And that's what it really is, a family. You know, once the crowds get here, it's easy to lose that sense because it's just a bunch of unfamiliar faces, but there's this web that goes through the whole fair that's really special, and I love it that many people's kids are coming and being part of it now. My daughter used to come every year, and now she's mostly rooted somewhere else in Boulder, Colorado, and so she's missed many fairs now. She came a few years ago, and I really hope she starts returning because it was really great having her here, and she really grew up here. She was a year and a half the first time we came. No, she was a year. And yeah, and I think it's really neat that the fair now has a radio station that they're sharing with the community of Veneta, and I think that will have a nice impact. It's a low power, so it's just local, but I guess it's going to be online, I hope, and so hopefully we can get that from wherever we are and contribute in whatever way we can. And then if you move to Alaska now, you can flip on KOCF and find out what's happening in Eugene and what's coming up at the fair. So you know, there's the technology is a mixed blessing, and I just hope we learn to use it right and in ways that connect us and not make us all be walking around glued to our little machines. So, long live the fair. All right, I mentioned earlier that I was partners with Wally Jones for 12 years and friends with him until his passing, which happened 4 years ago. And he was a huge impact in my life and in many people's lives. He was one of the almost original Ho-Dads. And so he has this network of Ho-Dads everywhere, and then he's been on recycling. He was on recycling from '86 on, and got eldered out, but he still stayed connected and was involved. And there's a wonderful online interview, and I'm not sure how you find it, but of him and one of his best friends, Lowell Rose, being interviewed by Hal Hartzell, who wrote the book about Ho-Dads, but they're talking about their early years at the fair and sneaking in and all that kind of stuff, which, we used to do back then because, I'd sneak people in because it didn't have the same impact. And now it's like, you have to have a wristband now. You can't just pass a pass back and forth. But also just the impact of extra people. We just really need to, like I say, have a scale thing. Anyway, so Wally and I lived in a place that was founded by the founder of the recycling crew, and Wally was just a great guy. Knew everybody. We would joke that between the two of us we knew everyone in Eugene, but he knew most of them. And he remembered their names, he remembered the stories. He could go on, and he did. He spent a lot of time in Sam Bond's, especially toward the end of his life. That was his regular place. We would joke, we'd call it Wally's office. And he'd go and he'd sit there and tell stories, and he'd go there intending to have one beer, and then he'd end up having 5 or 6. And I always had real mixed feelings about that because he was a grown-up. He had to make his own choices, but I would say, Wally, at least after your first beer, drink a whole glass of water and then think about it, and then, slow it down. But he was not a mean drunk in any way. He just got more loquacious and sweet and generous and, charming with his stories. So I did split up with him for personal reasons, but we always stayed being really good friends. And many years later, probably about 12 years later, we got back together again for a while after a party at Matt and Janice's, some old Ho-Dad friends of his, and it was very sweet. But it was difficult too because his health was already, he was struggling. He always had some amount of sleep apnea, but he got it worse and worse, and it drove me crazy to be sleeping next to him and wake up and realize he's not breathing. Oh, breathe. And then when we were still trying to figure out who we were to each other, he ended up in the hospital. I took him to the urgent care, and it turned out he had a UTI, urinary tract infection, was what was immediately bothering him, but they came with an ambulance because he had a heart rate of 180. And so they whisked him off to Mackenzie Willamette and kept him for about a week trying to figure out how to get his heart in balance. And he had put on weight, but it was not, he was always a heavy guy. I mean, not when he was, before I knew him. I'd see pictures of him and I'd barely recognize him, this skinny little guy. But the weight he put on that time was where his fingers were puffy and his whole body was kind of puffy. And I sensed that it was like a heart thing. That's one of the things that happens with congestive heart failure. And so he hated, though, having to be medicated for his heart and having to feel that he was dependent in that way and that he was unhealthy. And I had tried to get him to do one of those sleep studies to deal with the apnea, and he would say, oh, I just have to lose weight. And I'm like, you'll lose weight easier if you have energy. And if you were using a CPAP, I know it's a machine, and, you know, and he was kind of stuck in his ways, and I think he was a little bit in denial. And so it's possible that he even went off of his heart meds before he passed. Nobody knows for sure. We didn't have any way of tracking it. And that was, my image of it was that his heart stopped in the middle of the night. I mean, his breathing stopped in the middle of the night, and his heart went, oh, I guess we're done. I don't have to keep breathing. And my next image is of him, his astral body hovering over and looking down and going, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. Because I really don't think he realized how vulnerable he was, and I don't think I did either. I think if I had any idea, I would have leaned on him harder. And I miss him terribly. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't have some moment of missing him. And I was the one who found him, because he would live by himself at that point, and nobody else knew his routines enough. People in Sam Bonds were going, well, I wonder where Wally was, but I thought maybe he was off on one of these trips he would take every now and then, but he had been gone for a while, and I was out of town, and it wasn't until I got back that I realized there's something wrong here. I'm not seeing Wally, and then, oh, his mail is piled up. So called Robert right away after I found him, and we had them come and deal with it, and it just was a shock to the whole community. Word went out right away among hodads and recyclers, and Friday everybody on those crews and everybody who knew about from some other way showed up at Sam Bonds, and recyclers were all wearing their Wally buttons from the year that they had his face on it. And then we had, and I got hold of his daughters. He has twin daughters, Darcy and Miel, and Miel came from DC, and Darcy came from well, she had actually been in Southern Oregon when I got hold of them, or when someone did. And so they came, and we dealt with his place and his stuff and everything, and we put together this wake, and we made little handouts that said, Wally wants to buy you a beer, and we gave those to people as they were coming in. And we also gave a little thing to people that we knew him well, and that saying we were having a big giveaway the next day, and just come to the house and take whatever you can use. And I've never seen that place so packed. People spoke, and people did music, and it was just wonderful. And Miel and I went back a few days later to pay Sam Bonds for the beers. They wouldn't take it. They loved him so much. And I had a picture I'd taken of him, and sadly enough, in Civic Stadium, which we just lost to a fire, the last week that EMs played there. And somebody had taken it and blown it up and put it in a frame, and I left it there after the wake. Said, you guys can, have this for as long as you want. Well, I came back later. It's up on the wall. It's still up on the wall in Sam Bonds. And then we had one other memorial. We had a musical memorial here at the fair, where we invited people he knew who loved to make music, and we thought of songs that were special to him. I had one friend, Dave Bursch, sing a Greg Brown song, which he never knew, but he loved Wally, and he was very happy to learn. He now still sings it. Who would have thunk it? And some Holy Modal Rounders, and some, Chip Cohen, and Eric Sprado, and my best friend Jean and I, who we're in Sweetgrass, sing now a semi-suite. We sang There Are Places I Remember in My Life by the Beatles. And we had it at Blue Moon starting as soon as the fair was over, and blessed be, the sweep didn't get there till we were done with the memorial. And And then the latest memorial to Wally is that the path that he worked on, that they had figured out they could make this new path through the woods and make it be a kid space. He was real instrumental in doing that as part of the path planning committee. And then, but they hadn't finished it when he died. And everybody on the path planning committee thought they have to name this Wally Way. And we all thought that was a done deal, you know. But no, we got informed that no, this has to go through the proper channels. And we were like, oh no, are they going to take it away from us, you know? And it took about a year or so after it was actually created, where it finally got decided, and all they did was add an apostrophe S, Wally's Way. And so it is there over by the, goes from Gypsy Stage to the Rabbit Hole, or one of those spoken word stages. And it's a really kid-friendly space, and he would have loved it. So he's still with us everywhere. If you go to the Blintz booth, there are wonderful pictures of him on the wall there, because we were very good friends with those people. Used to go to Pringle Creek for Thanksgiving every year. And he planted trees with cheap thrills, among others. So, Wally, we sure miss you. Thank you for having been with us when you were.